What's up guys, today I wanted to go over a dev interview that came out after a hands-on event in China with Joe Ziegler and Julia Nardin. I'll go ahead and drop a link to the interview if you want to read it for yourselves, but we've got some dev insights as well as some new pieces of info. There have been a couple new videos dropped as well, which I can play at the end of the Q&A. A timestamp for that will be in the description if you just want to see that part. Anyway, let's get into it. Why did you decide to reboot the classic Marathon IP after so many years? Joe Ziegler answers, the world of Marathon is tense and unpredictable, full of suspense and uncertainty, making it the perfect setting for us to create an ultimate survival experience for players. In this dangerous environment, information is power, but it's also difficult for players to determine which information is reliable. Julia Nardin says, both Destiny and Marathon blend science fiction and fantasy elements. Destiny had more of a fantasy than science fiction, so in our next big title, we wanted to reverse that ratio. Marathon's universe leans more towards science fiction, and its fantasy elements are closer to cosmic horror than space opera. This characteristic fits perfectly with extraction shooters, since the key to these games is creating maximum tension. What was the biggest challenge encountered during development? Are there any interesting behind-the-scenes stories worth sharing? The biggest challenge in developing Marathon was keeping our focus on the core creative direction at every stage of development. The creative potential of Marathon is limitless. Exploring all these ideas, bringing every concept to fruition could very well take 10 years or more. Therefore, we had to make choices about when to bring players on board and accompany us through the rest of the creative journey. This also meant leaving our own dreams, hopes, and aspirations, as well as the expectations of our test players for the future. The player feedback during the closed beta phase helped further clarify the core positioning of Marathon. We also used this feedback to invest more effort in refining a deeper game world based on player suggestions, creating a more immersive and ultimate survival experience. Closed beta testing is an indispensable and crucial part of the development process for Marathon. We also look forward to continuing this creative journey with the global player community within an open online ecosystem. With extraction shooters becoming increasingly popular, how does the development team plan to make Marathon stand out from the competition? On the surface, the bizarre and magnificent world setting of Marathon is the core foundation for its unique identity. Most games in this genre start with the theme of survival, but what does it truly mean to survive outside our solar system? What tools do you need to carry to survive? What survival threats do you face on such an alien planet? Do the same physical laws apply here? I'm no longer a soldier trapped in a jungle or some ruined city, but a cyborg thrown into space to uncover the mysteries behind a lost colony. In this world, my actions, playstyle, achievable goals, and the paths to those goals are all completely different. After multiple rounds of testing, how does the development team evaluate the current development progress and overall quality of Marathon? The development team is always the most demanding of themselves, so I wouldn't say we think it's perfect, but we've been incredibly excited and looking forward to the outstanding work we've done over the past few months and even years. From the complete overhaul of the core gameplay to the restructuring and optimization of the progression system and the introduction of various new features, each one has revitalized the game. This isn't just our team's feeling. With each monthly version iteration, we receive invaluable feedback from our growing community of collaborating players. This feedback helps us better understand how to improve the game's appeal and guides our continuous optimization efforts. How does the development team balance looting gameplay, PvE, and PvP content? Will players who dislike PvP and prefer a PvE experience be able to enjoy the game as well? We're definitely not making a game that's just about PvE. From a PvE perspective, we've certainly created many attractive elements such as challenging enemies and environmental threats, but the core of Marathon is creating tension and a storyline in an environment where resources and rewards are scarce, and players will fiercely compete for these resources and rewards. In other words, PvP is unavoidable in many situations. At the same time, we've also provided non-violent interaction tools for players who prefer peace. For example, a close-range voice chat function and even the ability to hand items to downed enemies to revive them. These are all optional interaction methods. We look forward to seeing players develop their own stories in this environment without clear right or wrong, and the outcome of the game will depend entirely on the interactions and choices between players in the same match. Marathon is a long-running online service game. What is the core direction of its season updates? How will the reset and inheritance mechanisms ensure fairness and playability in each season? Each season in Marathon will be a fresh start. We envision each season as a months-long roguelike adventure. Each season, players will start with limited resources and must gradually grow stronger through various means, forging their own unique path to growth. To implement this concept, each season will incorporate new content and systems, substantially reshaping the seasonal gameplay. That said, some content will be retained at the player account level. For example, cosmetic items acquired through unlocking or purchasing will continue to be retained across seasons. In Destiny 2's PvP, there are instances where player guardians use abilities enhanced by exotic gear to wreak havoc. Will Marathon offer a similar experience? Will it incorporate gameplay elements such as class specialization, skill trees, or weapon systems? The key difference between Marathon and Destiny is that Destiny's gameplay revolves around players becoming superheroes fighting against evil forces. In Marathon, we wanted players to experience the challenge of surviving in an extremely dangerous alien world where there's no clear-cut good or evil. Everything is watching your life, making you feel like you're both hunter of the prey. The key difference between Marathon and Destiny is that Destiny's gameplay revolves around players becoming the superheroes fighting against evil forces. In Marathon, we wanted players to experience the challenge of surviving in an extremely dangerous alien world where there's no clear-cut good or evil. Everything is watching your life, making you feel like both hunter and prey. Of course, as players gain experience, their abilities will improve, unlocking more powerful equipment and making each run more prepared. But the core principle is that no matter how strong a player is, they will face challenges. Survival will be the core experience in both PvP and PvE modes. How much do skills and equipment affect the overall combat experience? In Marathon, gear and skills are key to developing strategies and tactics to overcome survival challenges. While gunfights remain the core of the game and an important part of the gear and skill systems, healing, looting, movement, and environmental exploration are also core aspects of survival gameplay. Players' equipment choices, gear combinations, choice of the sprinter shell, and skill usage will greatly enhance these experiences. The player community is very concerned about anti-cheat mechanisms. What specific measures has Marathon taken to ensure fairness and integrity? We are committed to ensuring the security of Marathon and maintaining a highly trustworthy competitive environment. Games like this are extremely vulnerable to bugs and cheating, and as players ourselves, we've experienced the frustration of a game being ruined by malicious players. Therefore, we've implemented numerous preventative measures, but more importantly, we are prepared to deal with any cheating situation. As is well known, cheating in online games is a constantly evolving problem that requires continuous countermeasures. Compared to last year's test, the PvE challenge difficulty seems lower in this test. Was this a judgment based on previous player feedback? The difficulty level set by the UESC will undoubtedly change with each version iteration. I think in the alpha testing phase, the design idea was to make all AI more resilient, but also easier for players to bypass. Once alerted, a large number of AI would flood in and unprepared players would be quickly overwhelmed. However, as we continue to iterate and optimize based on player feedback and internal opinions, we designed these AI as individual units rather than groups. If players act recklessly, they will still alert all the AI in the area, but now each AI has increased damage and resilience, allowing the players to defeat them one by one without alerting the entire area of enemies at once. To some extent, this gives players more tactical options when attacking any area. And more importantly, the entire game is no longer a binary situation of either alerting all the AI in the areas or remaining completely undetected. Does the game include a safe container mechanism that allows players to retain certain items after death? At launch, we won't be introducing the safe container mechanic for Marathon. While this might be a bit difficult for players accustomed to other extraction shooters to adapt to, we've tried our best to design other ways to acquire resources and progress in the game, ensuring that players who want to continue even after dying can still derive a sense of accomplishment. Of course, we may add a similar safe container feature in the future. The key is that we will continue to monitor player behavior and feedback to understand how well players adapt to the gameplay of Marathon. Given that Marathon supports cooperative gameplay between different squads, will a matchmaking system be added to help players who prefer team play find groups more easily, similar to the mechanics in Arc Raiders? We won't create specific matchmaking rules to differentiate between non-combat players, but we will provide tools like close-range voice chat so that the players can meet and communicate within the game. In Marathon, the tension and suspicion of not being able to determine whether other players are hostile is the core of the survival experience. It is this sense of the unknown that drives the unpredictability at every race. A producer previously stated that the core concept behind this game's development was a team-based gameplay experience, but recently, a single-player mode called Rook was added. Is this mode merely a supplementary feature, or will the development team continue to optimize the single-player experience in future updates? When the game officially launches, we will offer both solo matchmaking and the Rook experience for single-player players. After receiving a lot of player feedback during the alpha test, we decided to add a solo matchmaking mode to satisfy players who crave a more intense experience and greater control over their gameplay. At its core, Marathon is survival. While we hope players can enjoy playing in teams, we also respect the preference of many players for the ultimate solo experience. Including teams that join midway through the match, what is the maximum number of teams that can participate in a single game? According to the design, how frequently do different teams encounter each other? The number of teams and players varies depending on the map. Large maps can have a maximum of 18 players per game, excluding new players, which is roughly 6 teams of 3 players each. Small maps support 12 players, 4 teams of 3 players each. When 2 teams suddenly encounter each other and start fighting, it's called an encounter battle. Overall, there's an average of 1 encounter per game, so some games you might encounter 2 teams, while others you might not encounter any. It depends on the number of players chasing, hiding, and cooperating within the game. The development team has promised to rework the AI skirmish gameplay, adding new loot types and more fun dynamic events. What is the current progress on these changes? Compared to the alpha version, how will the AI's lethality and tactical diversity be specifically reflected? There are too many details to list at this stage, but many aspects of the game have been adjusted compared to the first beta version. We focused on making survival challenges the core gameplay foundation. That is, we've designed the game environment to be more dangerous, increased the threat of the AI, and made resource planning a key consideration. In addition, we will introduce extremely difficult missions, forcing players to face life or death situations, and those who complete them will receive very generous rewards. Regarding cross-platform player balance, how will the development team optimize the differences in controls between gamepads and keyboard and mouse? Will a cross-platform progress synchronization feature be introduced? We will be offering account linking options for cross-platform players, allowing a simple save file to be shared across all platforms. Whether you're playing on PlayStation 5 or PC, you can use the same account to continue your progress. We've made many optimizations for controller and keyboard and mouse players to ensure smooth gameplay for both, while also ensuring a fair and enjoyable experience for both sides. However, we will be offering matchmaking restrictions for console players, allowing them to choose not to be matched with PC players. During the demo, it became apparent that the game design seems to encourage cross-team cooperation. Was this the scenario the development team originally envisioned? I was quite surprised to hear that. According to our game's design framework, most players will instinctively see other runners as rivals. There certainly won't be enough high-quality resources on the map for all players, so naturally everyone will want to take resources from other runners or prevent them from getting them first. Nevertheless, we've designed mechanisms that allow players to reach informal truce agreements through close-range voice interaction, which we call tense alliances. Ultimately, we want players to make their own decisions, whether it's cooperation, confrontation, or backstabbing. In Marathon, all these choices are possible. In the demo version, in-game resources are relatively scarce and randomly distributed, while the AI guarding these resources is extremely vigilant, making the game seem very challenging. Was this intentionally designed? Indeed, resource management is one of the core design elements of Marathon. We want players to carefully consider the resources they start with, and to feel challenged if they are unprepared when they are encountering opportunities or threats. The game also includes a corresponding supply mechanism to help players cope with these resource problems. Each map has its own supply points where players can find ammo boxes to obtain ammo and useful equipment to avoid running out of ammo. There are also medical stations where players can obtain various medical supplies, and in most cases, these supply points are located in somewhat remote areas, meaning players will have to spend extra time exploring and taking detours to obtain these resources. Bungie has a huge fan base in China. Is there anything you'd like to say to the Chinese players? I personally am very much looking forward to seeing the reaction of Chinese players to Marathon. China has one of the most passionate and talented player communities in the world, and I believe they will provide positive feedback, explore more ways to play, and give us a new understanding of this game. Thank you all for joining us on the expedition to Tau Ceti. That's going to be it for the Q&A. I'll go ahead and let the showcase video play.
感谢抖音游戏和邦记 UCG 有幸参与了几天前的失落星船马拉松线下试玩活动。本次活动是除了北美之外的唯一线下试玩。邦记对中国玩家社区的重视程度可见一斑。与大半年前的首次测试相比，目前的游戏内容丰富了不少，视听效果也取得长足进步，几乎可以说是改头换面。试玩过后，我对失落星船马拉松的好奇心也到达了一个新高度，迫切的想要知道3月上线的正式版本将会以怎样的面貌呈现给全球玩家。出于保密需要，本视频的游戏录像均由官方提供。先说主观体验，那就是困难。 这种体验的一大来源是 PVP 环节。地图上的 UESC 机器人部队确实不好惹，功高血厚，让试玩现场一片哀嚎。即便参与过之前的技术测试，对此早有心理准备，但还是差点被机器人围殴灭队。除此之外 ，AI 还会根据局内事件以及剩余时间不断刷新增援，所以基本没有清图一说。相较于早期版本，现在的环境也更加凶险。地图上会有毒气喷口和哨戒炮塔，地上或者箱子旁边可能还插着地雷，一不小心又是出界杀。有时正打得热火朝天，脱离战斗后发现自己还在持续掉血，回头一看是 USC 无人机在吸我的屁股，气笑了。导致困难的另一大原因是球，与 AI 交战会消耗不少资源，但是从普通敌人身上基本没法回收资源。现版本用劣化版消耗瓶替换了不少局内资源，桌上和地上的补给大多是已耗尽的版本，只能提供微量回复效果。有时和精英巡逻队急头白脸的打一场，打完也半身不遂了。结果从机器人的包里只能搜出几块创可贴，而在局外商店，除了定期刷新的低保，一个护盾包卖300块，解包415块，而我带出一把常见的带改建的绿色品质枪械，也只能卖个几百块，其他的子弹和消耗品都不值钱。试玩活动临近尾声时，我已经没钱购买足够的回复道具进图了，除非变卖全部家产。如此看来，玩家在游戏前期陷入战斗注定入不敷出， PVP 更是让对抗收益雪上加霜。这最终会塑造什么样的游戏环境，让我十分好奇。以下是我的猜测。目前这种高风险的探索体验可能会让游戏更偏向任务驱动，玩家需要尽快完成任务，收集道具，然后升级商店和角色的基础属性。毕竟留得青山在，不怕没柴烧，一步一脚印的局外成长才是最实际的收益。另一方面，不得不算的经济账也会迫使玩家更重视搜刮，同时提高辅助型角色的存在感，比如可以减少团队消耗的医疗角色，以及专注于搜集的盗贼。玩家不可避免的要用到免费装备包，以及类似斯卡夫的特殊角色卢克进场，以尽可能低的成本积攒资源。这一切可能会导向更保守的、目的明确的快节奏战局。对于玩家之间的合作，我不会抱有不切实际的期望，毕竟在这种资源压力下，打击其他玩家显然是更高效的收集方式。俗话说得好，邻居囤粮我囤枪，邻居就是我粮仓。至于游戏的终极玩法，大概也只会是纯粹的战斗。说完主观感想，下面来说说实际的游戏内容。游戏的整体面貌基本经历了一次大翻修， UI 的视觉效果更丰富，图片素材和3维检视界面都是新东西，只是新的 UI 逻辑还是让我有点不习惯。在主菜单中，不同页面的标签都集中在右上角，但一旦进入地图准备菜单，标签又跑到了左下角。此时想要查看任务，还需要多点击一次，进入2级页面才能看到详情。游戏内的画面也经过全面升级，更高的对比度加上大面积黑色色块，还有体积物和泛光效果，让场景显得更加阴郁，延续了从通往黑暗之路到旧马拉松3部曲的神秘氛围。本次试玩放出了全部7种外壳，包括盗贼救援和鲁克。整体来看，各类技能的分配比较均衡，并不是极度偏科的专精设计，为小队阵容搭配提供了更高的灵活性。例如位移技能并不是某个外壳专属，基本人人有份。毁灭者可以空中冲刺和加速跑，刺客能够空中速降，暴徒的特性是2段跳和长距离滑铲，盗贼则有一个可以凭空固定的钩爪。除了线上商店和通行证还无法查看之外，游戏的其他子系统都无限接近于完整版，包括游戏百科、挑战项目，还有自定义系统。观众们可能已经见过豪华版的奖励，里面包括一套蓝血黑皮外观。当然，游戏里的皮肤肯定不止这些，每个外壳本身就有6套基础皮囊，分别对应6大阵营的主题色。劲将武器和28种枪械都有自定义选项，每把枪都有2种或以上的皮肤，个别皮肤会改变武器的模型外观。除此之外，枪械还有一个挂坠和3个贴纸槽位，玩家可以通过完成挑战来获得各种装饰。本次试玩中最让我惊喜的是对背景设定的进一步完善，新手教程和企业代理人为玩家提供了具体的出身和动机，百科条目以及地图里的资料则提供了更多关于世界的信息。玩家甚至能找到施特劳斯博士的日志，这个人串联起了初代马拉松的诸多剧情文本，可以说是系列中的重要人物。可惜本次试玩时间有限，只能等到正式版再进一步探索。